Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and part 7 of the Tamiya Sdkfz 250/3 Greif buddy build with Jim at ShutterAve. Alright, in this episode I begin step 15 through 17, which is the fenders and parts assembly for those. Assembly of the fenders to the vehicle, engine covers, a few extra things, and then finally the back hatch and machine gun. We'll be getting close to the end. So somewhere in this section I am going to have to attach the running gear. So we'll look at that when we get there. Alright, so the first parts that I'm going to be working with is the fenders B16 and 17. And I've already got them cut off and I've got them trimmed, kind of cleaned up a little bit, so they're ready to go. So at this point I need to, I think I'm going to have do some painting. So okay, so since I'm doing these three steps together, I think some of these other parts, like these tow hooks, the engine covers, the back door, any of that stuff, I'm going to glue it onto the hull and have it in place. I'll leave these to last, so that way I can at least paint the majority of everything. I'll paint these, and then I can install the wheels and tracks and then put the fenders on. So let's go ahead and start with those parts there. So let's see, let's do the engine covers here, which is parts B56 and 57. This is where builds start getting not quite so defined as compared to the instructions. For me, because this is where I'm doing painting and all this kind of stuff. If I would have just installed everything, the running gear and all that, it would have probably been a little bit smoother at this point, but the painting would have been a little more difficult for me, and I don't know, it just would have been of course, I guess, you know, it's either have difficult painting or difficult assembly. I don't know. So this will also be the moment of truth with the tracks. Let's see how they actually mount. All right, so we got these. So this one goes here, obviously. And this one goes here, again, obviously. So for these, I'm going to, you know what's funny is, I don't know if you can see it on camera. Let's see if I zoom it in. But you can just barely see the ghost of the ejector pin mark on the inside. You know, I can see a circle, but it's like, it's just discoloration. It's not really, you know, it's weird. Never saw that before. So for this part, I'm going to be using this cement because I don't want to use a liquid cement because I don't want it to seep in and seal up the joints. So I'm just going to put some all around here, a little bit here. Like that. So hopefully that right there didn't get up on the side. Alright, so let's put these in place like that. And this one like that. Make sure that it is kind of even all the way around. Alright, so there's that. So now let's cut off B64 and 63. Try not to get those mixed up. Let's see, 64 goes on this side, 63 goes on this side. So we'll get those cleaned up. Alright, so I got these cut off. They're ready to go. And they go right here like that. So here's what I'll do. Put a little bit of cement on here. Like that. Fumble around with it and get it in place. Now that patin you heard just now just happens to be Jim. We're chatting about the weather and how our kits are coming. Groovy, eh? Okay, the hooks are on. The door, now the door I'm gonna have to paint that separately because I need to paint the interior of it, which I should have thought of that, but I didn't. So there you go. Alright, so I need to glue part B70 on this back door here. And I'm going to evaluate those ejector pin marks to determine if I truly need to fill those. So let me let's see. It goes like this. So the lower one definitely is not going to get fixed. It's not necessary. The upper one, I think I need, you know what, actually I'm just going to sand it right now while it's off before I put that part on. So let's work on this a little bit. Alright, so I got that upper one done. So now I need to run this on the sander real quick because it's not really sitting flat. There we go. Alright, and that goes there. Okay, so I need to paint the inside of that gray, which means I'm going to have to do a lot of extra paint stuff. That's just horrible. So let's get that on. You know what? Needs a little bit of sanding right there. All right. Before I get crazy with painting and stuff, I'm going to get the accoutrements installed on these fenders. I really don't want to have to do a whole bunch of extra painting and stuff. I want to try and get as much done in one pop as I can. So let's see, let's do this fender here, so we need the Sledge hammer, which is B5. So one of the, so I've got this part glued on, which is B6 and then B13. So another thing I'm going to take a look at here is this. This is molded on detail. And molded on detail sometimes can be pretty shallow and just not very realistic looking. So one thing I'm going to try and do here in order to make it look better is I'm using the edge of my hobby knife flipped upside down, and I am just going along the edge, keeping the flat side down, sharp side up at a slight angle, and I'm just creating some depth here, a nice kind of some fake three-dimensionality. Is that right? Just so whenever I get it painted and I start doing washes and stuff like that, it'll have a place to go and it won't just puddle up along the edge. It'll look like something, hopefully, it'll look like something that is sitting on top of the fender as opposed to being a part of the fender. So whether or not I'm successful, we will find out once we get into the weathering stages and see how it looks, but I think it'll be okay. I thought about cutting it completely off and scratching some stuff, but you know what, I'm not gonna. I'm trying to keep it as much in the, out of the box as possible. I may not be following the instructions exactly in order, but I'm trying to use the stuff that's in the box and not get too crazy with extras. So we'll see how that looks. I think I might touch up just a little bit with just a little bit of extra thin to get the fuzz and the burr. Oh yeah, it looks pretty good. It's better once I get the fuzz taken care of there. All right, so there's that. So next I need to glue the Sledge hammer into place, and that goes here. There's a little very shallow pin that goes in that hole and that little fitting there. So we'll put that there, and then we'll put a little bit of glue on the clamp on the handle there, like that. Whoa. Okay, so then we have this little tail light here that goes in this hole back here. So we'll get the old tweezers and hope I don't send this flying off into La La Land somewhere. Put a little bit of cement in there just to hold it, and then I'll probably have to put some more. That looks pretty good. Now I'll just put a little bit of extra. All right, now I'm supposed to be gluing this tripod from earlier on there, but I'm going to wait because that'll make it really hard to paint the detail. So I'm going to paint this separately, glue it on afterwards before I start doing the weathering. So the next thing I need to do is work on the other fender. So let me set that stuff aside and get the other fender over here. We'll take a look at this. All right, so the parts are on this fender, and then on this fender here, I am going to install these parts, which there's a few more. So we need B15 and B12, B3, B6, B7, and B2. So I'll cut all those off and get them cleaned up. All right, so I've got all these parts cleaned up. So now I need to glue them all in place. So I'm going to start at the back here and do this one first. Like this. That, oops, out of there. Oh. There we go. Let's put a little bit more cement on it. Like that. So then I need to put this, which I have no idea what it is. I've looked online. I can't see a clear picture of what it is. Looks like a horn, but the pictures I saw didn't really show a, oh my goodness, didn't really show a hole in the front where the bellowing sounds would come out. So I don't know. I'm not thinking it's a horn. I'm thinking it's something else, probably something top secret. Okay, so there's that. Then I need to put B6. Now, I could be wrong, but after looking at some photos of these things, somebody could tell me yay or nay. These look like they might be Semaphores, which, you know, if you don't know what a semaphore is, because, you know, it's kind of an obsolete and ancient mode of vehicle paraphernalia. It's used to signal your turn. It's kind of like a turn signal, but I'm not sure if that's what it is or not. So if you know, please say so in the comments. But that's what, oh shoot, of course I put it on backwards. But that's what it looks like. Looks in a photo I saw of a real vehicle. It looked like the semaphore maybe, but I don't know. So if you know, please put in the comments if that is truly what it is. Now this I'm having to kind of center up because the hole is much wider than the part where the part goes in. So I'm having to kind of center it up so it covers the hole. All right, there's that. Then we need to put the bolt cutters on here. So we'll do this front part here first. Oh, crikey. Nothing worse when part sticks to your finger when you're trying to glue it. If I'm not zoomed in right now, sorry, because I forgot. Boom. There we go. Okay. Alright, so let's put a little bit of cement here. Like that. And then, lastly but not leastly, we gotta put this here light in here. I believe it's called a No-Tech light. N-O-T-E-K, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I was wrong one other time. Okay, so that goes there. That's the light mount. I like that. And then we put the actual top of the light like perched precariously on that little stem, making sure that it is lined up. Oh, that's pretty good. All right, so let's let that dry for a minute. All right, everything's glued onto the fenders and such. So now it is time for me to prime and paint this stuff so far. So I've shown in previous videos what I do, so I'm not going to go through it all again. But I will say that I'm going to use my brown oxide primer by MIG, and then I'll be painting my base coat of XF63 German gray. So I'm going to work on that, and then once all that is done, then I'll be ready to put on the second layer of paint, which will be the RAL 8000 mixture. So we'll be back in a little bit. Take a look. Okay, so I primed the bottom and I primed the lower edge where the suspension and stuff is, and then I painted with the gray. So now I need to use my mix of RAL 8000 and do the lower part so I can get the tracks and wheels and everything into position. Okay, so here's the deal. Now, in looking at photos of these vehicles, they I'm kind of stumped as to what I should do, and I'm kind of leaning one way. Okay, because in looking at this thing, I don't have, well, let's just use the box top as an example. As you can see, where this running gear is, it's really tight. So I am not totally convinced that whoever painted this thing, because apparently this thing was painted in theater, came gray, they sprayed the desert color on top, the RAL 8000. I really doubt they would have taken all of this off to paint in there. And just scaling between the guy's hand and underneath there, I don't see how a person could actually get a spray gun underneath there. Now, they might have been able to just like put it up against the edge and just mist it on there as well as they could. But down in here, I just don't think it would have been that color. So I'm not trying to save materials here. I'm not trying to cut corners, but I'm really doubting that would have been solid RAL 8000 underneath. So going off my purely my own supposition and opinion, I'm going to do this. This is after much weeping and gnashing of teeth and trying to figure out. I am going to spray the yellow, the RAL 8000 here, and then obviously down this way, because they would have been able to fit behind the wheels. Okay, I think. Spray this, but again, and I'm not going to spray underneath here, and I'm going to spray this in a way, I'm trying to think of how they would have been able to spray it in theater without you know, taking things apart. So I'm not going to be really super concerned about getting all of this in here underneath and everything else in the yellow. I'm going to hit it from where I think a dude would be standing there with a spray gun spraying this thing. So all this down in here, I'm not going to spray yellow. This back here I will. Maybe a little bit of this back here, because part of that would have been exposed, I think. You know, like up in here. So I'm going to try and do scale painting like the way it would have been painted. So we'll see how it turns out. If I don't like it, I may just spray the whole thing yellow. But I'm going for a certain look here. And then this back here, obviously this would be sprayed. So I'm going to be doing the hairspray here only. And maybe on top of this stuff here so I can do some chipping on it. So I'm going to do that off camera though, since you've already seen me paint stuff. Not necessary to waste a bunch of time loading up the airbrush and spraying it and all that stuff. So I'll come back once I have that sprayed and we'll see how it turned out. Okay, here's what I came up with. So you'll be able to see a little bit of it if you really look back there. But I think that's a pretty sound decision. A little bit more back here, a little bit less there, a little bit on the inside edge there. Just basically where a person, I would think, could fit an spray gun in order to spray this. So next thing I want to do is I need to remove all this stuff, and I need to install the wheels. And then from there, I will work the tracks around that, hence my leaving the fenders off. All right, so here's what I'm doing. I've already glued the wheels on this side, and here's how I did it. I glued the front, I glued the drive sprocket and the idler wheel with super glue gel. One of those anchored on there really well. And then for these here, I am going to use my thick liquid cement. So I'm doing it wheel at a time, kind of. But I'm putting some of this in here because this stuff dries slower than Tamiya Extra Thin. And it will give me a chance to work before it evaporates. So I am putting this one here like this. Getting that in place, then this one in place. Not all the way in though. And then this one there. And then this one here. And the reason I didn't use the super glue gel on this is because I want to be able to set it down and make sure they're all pressed in and level. So let's take a look and let's make sure that they are all perpendicular to the hull and that they are all flat. So that way they're all lined up nicely and I shouldn't have any trouble going to take some eyeballing here. I shouldn't have any trouble with the tracks. So there we go. And you know, most importantly, that they're all sitting flush on the ground, or in this case on the tracks. Don't want any gaps. And by using that cement, it gives me time to adjust them if necessary. And I'm just making sure that everything is lined up. And it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it upside down and let it dry really well. Then I can work on the tracks. Alright, so this side here, I've already got the tracks on this side. In full disclosure, they were horrible. It gave me such a fight. And as you can see, I even broke one right there. So I may have to maybe figure out a way to... Nah, it's underneath the fender, so you're not even going to see it. But I had a horrible time with this side. This side here looks like it's going to go on with no sweat, hopefully. But what I've got to do is I've got to get, this will all go down, but I'm going to have to get this to where it'll sag enough to make it sit properly on this wheel here. So it's going to be tricky ticky tavi. It's like they're a weird length or something. I don't know what the deal is. It's like it's just a little bit just a little bit long or a little bit short, but I should be able to get it. So because it takes a lot of finagling, I'm gonna be doing it off camera, so I'll come back. All right, real quick, like, I got the bottom already glued on. Only went like pretty quick, like, actually. So now it's just a matter of making sure this gets glued properly here. Oh God! See, this is the thing that's been causing me grief. Is these things? The contact points are so thin, so small, that it just comes apart kind of easily. So again, I'm gonna try and do this off camera here, but in hindsight, I would not recommend doing this the way I did it. Not smart at all. If I had it to do over again, I would not be doing this way. I would just put it all on there, forget about weathering and painting behind it, and just go for it. I think I made it way more of a hassle than I needed to. So just some food for thought there, folks. This one is not conducive to doing it that way. So forewarned is forearmed, as they say. So let me see if I can get this on here on the camera. Oh man, either that or I just go with aftermarket tracks completely. But I really wanted to do it out of the box, and that's what I'm doing. So there. Okay, that's not bad. That's there. Now if I can get this other part glued on without breaking it, I'll be doing pretty good. I just need to make sure that's in contact. Then I can squeeze this down to make that curve. Okay, here it is, for good or ill. I'm just really kind of frustrated with these tracks. Although they look good, they are very, very fragile. There's not much plastic to connect each link to each other, so I totally took the wrong way out with this particular method. I should have just built it according to instructions, glued everything on there, just forgot about the paint and just painted it later, because these things are just horrible to put on after the fact. For some crazy reason, I cannot get any of my super glue to stick to this stuff. So if you can sense a little bit of frustration, there is. It's just really, really frustrating to me. I've never had this, well, I have had this much trouble with one other set of tracks, and that was a Dragon T34. Those were frustrating as well. But they're on here. There's a big gap there. This side down here is all janky looking, and I'm just really not stoked at all. But you know what? That's the way it's going to stay. So when I put the fender on, it's not going to hide it, because the fender is high enough that you can still see the big gap. But you know what? At this point, I really don't care. I'm just so frustrated. I really, if I had it to do over again, I would have went with aftermarket tracks. If I ever come across a vehicle like this again, I will not use the kit. Well, I shouldn't say. I would approach it in a completely different way. I would just do the whole thing, glue it all together, and be done with it. But I didn't, so we're gonna have to deal with it. So I'm gonna let this sit up for a minute, and then we'll go ahead and put the fenders on and the other parts that have to go on. And I should be getting close to finishing up these steps. Alright, so let's get the fenders and attempt to glue them on. See what happens. So it goes here and there. There's a couple of tabs that go into holes. That. So that goes there, and then this glues right there. So should be okay. So what I'm going to do though is, to play it safe, I'm going to use this cement here. Like that. Put it in place, maybe. Wow. This is becoming comical. Comical indeed. Wow. I cannot get this to fit on there. Alright, there we go. Wow. Incredible. Incredible. It's just really making me sad here how much trouble I'm having with this thing all of a sudden. Okay, so let's let that sit up for a second before we mess with the front. Let's flip it over. And we'll do the same thing here. Hold that together like that for a minute. Let this cure up before we move on. Alright, now I can glue the front part of the fender to its mounting point there. And there. So I'm going to use one of my handy dandy clamps to hold it in place, because it's kind of bowed out a little bit. Just want to make sure they're lined up properly. Like that. So while that is setting up, I've got this part done already. So then I also need this part for the other side, which is B20. And I need the little rain gutter on the back, which is B1, which is in the first slot of the B sprue. And that goes right across the top of that door in the back. So let me get this. Like that. So let's take that in the old tweezers, put just a little dab of glue on here, and there's like a little faint little line there that shows exactly where it's supposed to be, just like that. So I'll add a little bit more cement here. Sorry about my noggin getting in the way in that last segment. I'm gonna have to watch that. Sometimes I lean too far forward when it's not really necessary. Okay, so there's that. So I got these cut out and ready to go. Then the only other thing I really need to cut out right now that needs to be painted, it's going to be this C24, which is the gun shield. It mounts to the gun, but I'm thinking that it might be too hard. Let's take a look. Let's cut this off here. So I need B48, which is the machine gun here. So we got that. We also need B46. This goes in the back on that little hole there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that cut off and get that cleaned up. I think that might be everything that I need from the B sprue as well, but we'll see. But I'm gonna get this cleaned up here, and then the gun shield here. Now, one thing I generally like to try and do on, especially on older kits, or any kit actually that doesn't have it, is simulate a bore. And I do that sometimes with a drill bit, but sometimes I also use this because this is very easy to get started. It's easy to center. You just put it in the end of the barrel, spin it around like that, and voila, you have a hollowed out machine gun barrel. Okay, so I think that's just about ready to go. So let's see how it fits on the shield. Because the shield fits like that. So that looks pretty good. So the machine gun goes there. You know what? I'm going to wait on the machine gun and the shield just because I don't want to break that off whenever I take that off. I am going to clean these ejector pin marks up though, because those are going to be pretty visible. Not that it matters really a whole lot considering this thing is totally out of scale as far as thickness, but I think that'd stick out pretty badly. So I'll clean those up just with some sandpaper or a sanding stick like this. Get those cleaned up, so I'll set that aside because I'll paint that whenever I paint everything else. So let's take a look here, see how this has fared. Okay, so we're good there. So there's that. This little thing, whatever it is, I need to get this cleaned up, hopefully without breaking it with the... Oh, very well. I'm stoked. All right, that's cleaned up, so it goes right there, whatever it may be. So I'll put a little bit of cement in there like that. And then eyeball that and make sure it is square, which it is. Okay, so let's take a look. So actually it looks like that is crooked. Gravity took over there. Boy, this kit is starting to really fight me. And I don't understand why. So let's add a little bit more cement there, like that. All right, there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's see. No, not quite done yet. I gotta put these things on here. So this one goes here. That goes like that, I guess, somehow. That goes there, but it doesn't look like it fits that great, so I need to, oh, it looks like it's all right, I guess. So let's scrape some of this paint off here. Test fit it again. Guess it goes there like that. I think that's supposed to be like a louvered dust cover or something for the air filter, I'm supposing. Not quite sure, and I've totally missed the joint there, so let's try that again. So there's that, and then there's another bit right there. And then let's put some on there. Like that. Flip this over. This one goes here. Same way, it kind of hangs down a little bit. That one actually seems to fit a little bit better. That's a toolbox. Sure that's into position swellly. Alright, so that is that. Alright, with the exception of the gun shield and the machine gun, and this bag and this roll, tarp, or whatever it is, all this is done. Those I'll put on afterwards. So that finishes steps 15, 16, and 17 of this video, part 7. So next time when we come back, we'll be working on steps 18 and 19, which are all the jerry cans and the rack, the frame antenna. There's another machine gun, but those will be done after that. Okay, that's what that's for. That's for the machine gun mounts. There's a framework, some other small pieces, and the figures. So that's what we'll be working on next time in part 8. So that ends part 7 of the German Sdkfz 250/3 Greif buddy build with Jim at ShutterAve. So be sure and click on the link below so you can check out his progress on this same kit and see how he's handling all this stuff. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hints, tips, etc., put them in the comments section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So until then, I will see you all later.